So the first question is, where is the UK headed on the whole tax agenda? And in the current climate, the only way of answering that really is to separate us into the pre- and post-coronavirus eras. On the pre-CV era, I would say that the UK was headed towards a period of stealthy but incremental tax rises due to the fact that we're an ageing population, which generates large pressures on spending. We have a weak tax base, whether because of vehicle excise or tobacco or the taxes on self-employment being relatively leaky. So there were various things that a government would incrementally have to deal with. That has all been completely overtaken by the outspread of the virus, and we are now in an era where there's going to be massive macroeconomic stimulus, huge increase in public spending, some significant tax cut reductions in the short term, because the entire focus will be on trying to generate confidence and demand in the economy over the next year and beyond. But that will mean a massive increase in public debt over and above the higher levels we're already at, and at some point any government will have to take some action on that when we return to more normal economic conditions, and that action will come in the form of tax rises. And it may just mean that a government will have to consider more significant tax rises further down the road, of the sort that UK governments generally try to avoid. So that is where we are headed, a very different picture over the short term and the crisis period compared to the longer term, when something like normality will hopefully return. So the second question is, what are the main barriers to career progression that are embedded within our tax and benefit system in the UK? I want to highlight 4 areas. The first thing to say is that the UK tax system is generally thought of as being actually relatively low in direct taxation compared to many competitors. And that's true, but there are groups within the overall population who face very high effective tax rates at different points in the income distribution. So the first and largest group is about 7 million parents with dependent age kids, who are on universal credit. That's about half of all families with dependent age kids, and they will face roughly 70 to 75% effective marginal tax rate in every pound they earn. It's a large number of people. Then we have graduates who are paying 9% repayment on their student loans, over and above about £25,000. That's and most of those graduates will be paying that for 30 years, which means that their effective rate of tax, if they're a basic rate payer, is 41%, rising to 51% if they are a higher rate taxpayer. And that's about 40% of all young people. The third group are people or parents on above average earnings of about £50,000 to £60,000 who see their child benefit withdrawn between £50,000 and £60,000. And that means that if you are a parent with 2 kids in that income band, then you face a marginal tax rate of 60%. And if you have 3 kids, you face a tax rate of 67%. And there's well over 1 million parents in the UK who are in those categories. And then if we go further up the earnings distribution, closer towards the top, then people earning between £100,000 and £125,000 will see their personal tax allowance withdrawn. And that means that their marginal tax rate is actually 62%. So they're losing 62 pence of every pound that they earn, and that there's roughly 300,000 people in that stretch of income. So there are different groups in the overall kind of working population who face far higher marginal tax rates than the headline tax rates that you would be hearing about of 20p or 40p in terms of income tax. And that has a significant impact on their incentive to earn more and to progress their careers. And it's an issue I think we don't talk about enough.